Hello, in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the new Command & Colours game, the American Revolution Tricorne. So Richard Borg has joined up with Compass Games. Now I pre-ordered this many months ago. I believe the game went from being pre-orderable to Kickstarter and we have now got it out. I'm not sure exactly what you got from Kickstarter, but it does appear you got 2 extra scenarios, so thank you for including that in my shipment, Compass. So let's get the games open and see what's inside. I believe it's going to be stickers and wooden blocks a go-go. Before we actually open it up though, let's have a quick look at the back of the box. So we've got 12 scenarios, several different units. It's 2-player, fairly typical Command & Colours ancient sort of game. And if you're not aware, I'm a big fan of CCA, Command & Colours Ancients. There's also Battle Lore, there's also Battle of Westeros, which is a very different take on it. I believe there was a sci-fi version, there's Napoleonics, there's quite a few games now using this game engine, and I really like it with the wooden blocks. I did enjoy Samurai Battles, but the plastic minis didn't quite work for me, so I pretty much sold off all my Command & Colours games apart from Command & Colours Ancients because of the wooden block issue. I just prefer it with the wooden blocks. It just seems to me personally to work best like that. So anyway, as this has wooden blocks, I ordered it. Let's get inside the box and stop talking all about other games in the series. Right, so this being a Compass Games box, it's pleasing to see that it's pretty sturdy box, similar to the ones you might get from GMT. When you open it up, you get loads and loads of wooden blocks, so potentially stickering hell awaits me. You've got a couple of cards here to get your way through. You've got some small fancy looking dice, so no stickering required there. I do actually quite enjoy the larger dice from Command & Colours Ancients. A lot of people don't like them, so maybe people might prefer these particular set of dice. Obviously, product catalogue, then a rather boring looking battle map. Let's see what the other side is. Just plain. Yeah, very boring, just green, no desperate texturing effects. We then have a nice rulebook. Thankfully, we have some nice reference sheets, and on the back you have train effects. Then lots and lots of sticky labels, so going to be busy boy labelling things up, and then the tiles for making your maps look interesting. So you've got some rivers, some roads, some ponds, some camps, a load of American flags, some hills, some woods. Yeah, so quite a nice selection in there, and they're all double-sided, so you're going to have fun and games, and of course some good old British flags as well. So yeah, nice variety. So let me get these punched out. Well, I'm almost done punching these out. I'm pleased to say the actual die cut is pretty good. They come out without too much difficulty. They don't have too many horrible knobs and bits and pieces to worry about. In typical Command & Colours style, a lot of the tiles are double-sided, which means finding some of the correct mix of tiles can be a little bit frustrating at times, because if you're using a road tile, when you're actually looking for a river tile, you're then going to have to go off and find the other correct tiles and stuff. So that is the only downside to these sort of games, where they don't give you loads and loads of tiles. But having said that, I mean, there are quite a few tiles here, and getting it all back in the box is worrying me a bit, particularly once you've sticked up all the blocks as well. Now obviously these tiles are going to make that rather plain looking board look much better. So for example, you might have some woods next to a little kind of embankment, Obviously that is double-sided, so you've got your stone wall which has a woods on the back, but you've also got your embankment entrenchment system with woods on the back, and there are a lot of woods on the back of these tiles, I've noticed. You've got this kind of swampy lake tile. The hills mostly have woods on the back. The sort of enclosures, surprise surprise, have woods on the back, and then the roads and rivers seem to be backing on each other, but you've also got these little sort of hedgy bits which have what look like fords to me on them. I do quite like the fact that you can actually have a nice little end point to your river and also split roads. So yes, nice selection of little tiles. It's always nice to have extras of these. And then of course the two sides that fought in the war, the rebels who refused to pay their taxes, and then the decent, honest, hard-working sovereign peoples of the king. Yes. Or, of course, if you're on the other side of the pond, maybe you think of those two flags differently for this particular era of American history. Anyway, let's have a rummage in the rulebook and get all these stickers sorted out. Okay, so in the rules it talks about how we have 3 decks of cards. So you've got your regular command cards, which are these ones here, and then you have specific cards for each side. So we have the Continental and the British, and there is a slight kind of like mark on the card, which is a Tricorne hat. So it looks like the card's actually marked, but it's part of the design. In addition, we have our sort of typical combat dice, and it's very pleasing to see they've actually included some stickers. So if you want extra sets of dice, you can buy blanks and just sticker them up. So nice little touch there. So we've got the retreat flag, the artillery symbol, the crossed sabres, the infantry, and the cavalry. So that's your dice, and I've got 3 extra dice. So you get 8 dice, so that's a nice little set of dice there. And they look really nice. They kind of screen printed by the looks of it, and you know, they roll nice random results by the looks of it. So nice, small, so that's going to please people who like smaller dice. I wouldn't mind the slightly bigger plastic ones. It also talks about how many blocks you get. So there are just a ton of them. What is it? 309 blocks for me to sticker up. So that's going to keep me very busy. These obviously are your victory banners. So as you defeat units, you capture banners, and different scenarios you're going to win based on how many banners you've got. And then obviously different scenarios will tell you which terrain to deploy. Now, as with most Command & Colours games, once you know the rules, you'll be able to probably play it just off this sheet. So, for example, forests, you must stop and move no further this turn. If you're moving onto it, infantry get -1 battle effect. If you're moving into it, the target ignores 1. So if you're shooting into it, I guess, target ignores 1 symbol from range combat. And again, if it's cavalry, you get -2, artillery -1 if you're shooting out. It blocks line of sight, and on morale, infantry can ignore a flag. So there's a couple of little twiddly bits there for me to read up and see how that varies from the normal rules that I'm used to from Command & Colours Ancients. I'd imagine they're fairly similar. They may be using slightly different wording to what I'm used to. And then you've got some more complex things like field works. Apply effects only when through the field works. So if you're shooting across the field works, you get the benefit. But if you're shooting from behind the field works, you ignore the field work effect. When you're moving into a hex, it's must stop when entering or exiting through field works, hex side. And then you've got all the different things, and infantry and artillery can ignore 1 flag except from artillery. So all sorts of fun and games there. Then you've got the units. So you've got your Guard Elite, your Grenadier Elite, and your Highland Elite. They're your red units. Your regular units, which you've got red and blue. Unfortunately, red being, I guess, the British, and blue being the militia. So you've got your regular infantry, your light infantry, your rifle lights, your provincials, your militia, then your actual light cavalry, light field artillery, and then your various leaders. So how far do they move? How many combat dice do they roll in melee and also ranged? How many flags can they ignore? How far do they retreat on a flag? Rally bonus, and then any particular notes. So, for example, the Highlanders get a Highland charge, which gives them +1 melee when ordered, and may bonus melee with no +1 bonus on that bonus melee. So they get a charge with a +1, then they also get to do a bonus melee. So again, slight variations with things like, are they going to be bold, are they going to have bonus melee, are they going to be able to move, and all this sort of stuff. So that's where the rules are going to tweak. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, yeah, we'll try and set up a game and actually kind of walk you through some of the rules. But anyone who's used to Command and Colours, hopefully that would all make sense. And the sheet, it could do with being a little bit thicker, but it's not bad. It's perfectly serviceable, and it's nice and clear, and it's got lots of detail, and it's nice that they've included 2, so 1 for each side, always good. 4 would be better in my opinion, because obviously that way you could have both sides per player, and also if they ever bring out like an epic version of this where you could play with double boards, that would be a nice little extra touch. Anyway, yes, sticker in, still need to get on with that. Right, well, we've got the rule book here, so we've got an introduction, contents, giving you a little quick summary, a nice breakdown of the amount of blocks you have, so when you're stickering up you know what to be working on. It then talks about units and leaders. It talks about each individual unit with a little bit of detail about how they work. We've then got the object of the game, which is basically to capture flags. We've got setting up the game, then the game turn with the sequence, so play a command card, order your units, then do your move, then do your combat, then end the turn. So pretty typical. Got a couple of examples of line of sight and how you determine the strength of your ranged attacks, the flag results, what they actually do, what to do if you have to retreat, and how do you rally. It's quite a bit on that. Then it's got stuff about leaders and leader casualty checks, which can be one of the trickiest bits. Talks about taking ground and bonus melee and defending, battling backs, end of turn, victory banners, objective banners, various combat cards, command cards, and then quite a few pages dealing with the terrain. Credits, then just scenarios, which takes up the rest of the book. So although it's a 36-page rule book, the first 23 pages are sort of rules and setup and details, with the rest being basically scenarios. But the actual basic rules, I guess, end on page 19 and don't really start till, I guess, page 9. So 9 to 18, so 9 pages of rules effectively. Now admittedly it is quite small text, but that's why I love the game. It's fairly simple on the basics, but it's actually, you know, when best to play, for example, like this, the light battle bonus. So play this alongside with your command card. All ordered light infantry units get this bonus, which is 1 extra battle dice. You get a nice little bit of artwork as well. Is it the same on every single card? No, it isn't. Lovely. Anyway, these cards, yeah, they seem okay. I'm probably going to sleeve them, being a sleeveaholic. But there you go. Anyway, back to stickering. Yes, I'm still stickering. Well, I've managed to get most of the British stickered up, plus the Germans. I've just got 11 units of regular infantry to go, and then we can start on the traitorous Americans. Yes. So it's looking pretty good so far. Quality-wise, close to GMT's Command and Colours Ancients. I really enjoy the graphics here, obviously with the different coloured bases for the names. So Grenadiers and Guards and Highlanders, obviously being elite. Highlanders, yeah, bound to be elite. Anyone brave enough to run around in kilts where there's snakes and poison ivy, they've got to be an elite unit, surely. The leaders are interesting. It looks like all the British are running to the left and all the Americans are running to the right. So that's an interesting way of differentiating them. And the quality on the paint, I mean, that's a really lovely blue and a really lovely red. And, you know, when you've got your serried ranks of troops marching across the field, this is going to look gorgeous. And this is why I prefer the blocks to the minis. The simplicity of moving them, packing them away, they're less fragile than minis. You don't have all the faff of painting them. You do, of course, have the faff of stickering them up, which is a little bit problematic, but there you go. Anyway, let's get back to the stickering. Well, I've finally done it. I'm down to the last block with the last set of stickers. So it's just a question of peeling the stickers off and putting them on. I have to say it's taken a little bit of a while, so it has been useful to sort of get used to the various units in the game and the composition. Rather weirdly, artillery has 4 blocks. In fact, most of the units in this game have 4 blocks, so I guess that's similar to Command & Colours Napoleonics, so a little bit different from Ancients, where you had 2, 3 and 4 block units. I don't think there's any 5 block units. I don't remember stickering up any of those. And I've put all my Yankee army on a virtual battlefield. And as you can see, the boring board looks much more exciting once you load it up with the scenery tiles and the huge ranks of fighting men. So this is the entire American forces deployed. So you have your light units, your riflemen, your provincials, your regulars, your militias, your light artillery, and probably just about visible over on the far left there, your light cavalry. So slightly less fighting power than the British, because you've got greens and blues. Then you've got obviously the militia and the provincials, which have their own special little rules. This compares with the British force, which I've also all stickered up, where you have light cavalry, light artillery, a few light footmen, and then a load of blue and red, and then a couple of provincials on their side as well. So yes, time to read the rule books and maybe have a couple of turns just to give you an idea of how the game works. Right, so we've got our pretend scenario set up here with the British moving onto the board, capturing a fort and setting up a base camp. Unfortunately, that's caused a bit of a roadblock, so the artillery hasn't managed to get out. The American forces have deployed their artillery, and they will be able to do an opening cannonade and then retreat 2 hexes. Then the British will have their go, then the Americans will have their go. So that's basically the kind of setup. I've actually put some flags on objectives for the Americans to capture and also a secondary objective for the British. The British have made basically to destroy 4 units plus capture the farmhouse. The Americans just need to ideally capture both of these objectives and have more victory points than the Brits, or to inflict 5 destroyed units to make the British have to retire. So it's a fairly simple little scenario with quite a lot of figures. So the cannonade is basically going to be 1 dice, because the range is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. And then this one, 1, 2, 3. The final one won't shoot. So first cannon will be on this unit, second cannon will be on this unit. So first cannon rolls an infantry, the second cannon rolls a flag. So I've destroyed a base. That doesn't affect the fighting strength of the unit. It just means it's being beaten up a bit. Now the flag is against a light unit. So the light units for the British, they may ignore 1 flag in a forest, and because they're not in a forest, they're going to have to retreat. So they will retreat 1 hex and they're going to move back in this direction. So that's the end of the cannonade phase. So the cannons will now retreat back to the hills. So I'm going to basically have a set of cards for the British. So they are going to have 5 cards and the Americans are going to only have 3. The British will start off with 2 command cards and the Americans will only have 1 command card. So let's have a look. The Americans will have a go now. So yeah, I think they're going to do a scout. So they can issue 1 order to any unit or leader in any section. So and then draw 2 command cards. So let's just get those 2 command cards ready. And okay, so who am I going to move? I think we want to get some lights moving up, so let's do that. So I can move 2 and not shoot, or move 1 and shoot. So I think they'll just move 1, this unit over here, and I think they will then shoot. So at that range they're rolling 2 dice against a bridge, so they can ignore 1 flag by the looks of it. So they've had 2 flags, so they ignore the first flag, but they must obey the second flag. Now the problem is they are stuck because they're all jammed up with someone behind them. Now they have to retreat 3 hexes. Because they can't, for each failed retreat they lose a block. So that was a devastating blow against the militia. And this is the problem with the militia. They are a bunch of scaredy cats, and they run away really easily, and are therefore not very effective on a battlefield that's as crammed and jammed up as this. This probably as a real scenario wouldn't be very good because it's just so jam-packed full of stuff. So what did the Americans draw? They got at, quick step and cavalry charge. That looks pretty nice. So which one are they going to discard? I think they're going to discard the cavalry charge because they don't have a huge amount of cavalry. Okay, so the Brits have a counterattack card, so they could do scout, they could do a line volley, or they could do an infantry range bonus. So I think they're going to do that. So they are going to actually get the militia that's just been shot to do an infantry range bonus on that light unit that's poked its head out. So they get 2 extra dice. And as militia, they normally only get 1 dice for that range, but they're actually going to get 3 dice in total due to that bonus card. So they've rolled 3 flags. Now 3 flags against lights is going to be pretty devastating. So they can't ignore anything. They need to retire 3 steps. So they retire 1 and then lose 2 bases due to the fact they can't retire. So that was, you know, reasonably decent. Now at the same time as playing that, I could play another card from my special selection. Let's have a look. Sorry, that infantry range bonus was the bonus card. I thought something was going wrong there. So what am I going to use as my actual card? So yeah, let's play the counterattack, which is draw 2 cards, discard 1 of them. I'm going to keep recon in force and get rid of outflanked, and that then allows me to issue an order to any 1 unit in any 1 section. Well, I've already ordered the militia, so I can't order them again, but I think I'm going to order this unit here, and it's going to move in here and then melee. So because he's adjacent, he's a light unit, which means he gets to roll 2 dice. So he is going to do that. So he's rolled a cavalry and a retreat. Now I've got a feeling that light unit is going to be quite happy to stay put. Now I think, if I remember correctly from my quick skim of the rules, that you do get what's known as battle back. So because I haven't killed that unit, they get to fight back. They've rolled a sabre and a cavalry. So luckily, because they're not British, a sabre is irrelevant. So the British on a sabre result would actually cause a hit, but the Americans, not being quite so ruthless as the cruel, vindictive Brits fighting for their freedom, unfortunately aren't quite as good in hand-to-hand combat. Anyway, so that's the Brits' turn done. There you go. That's just a quick look at how the game works. As you can see, it works very similarly to the other Command and Colours games. I think I don't want to go too much further into it because I haven't fully read the entire rulebook and I don't want to make too many errors. But it basically, it feels similar to the other Command and Colour games. There is some nuances with moving, meaning you're going to drop dice. Some units get in sword hits, other units are not getting sword hits. So it's going to take a little while to get used to that, and that's where the reference sheet that's on the back of the rulebook, but also comes on the two-player reference sheet, so it's going to come in really handy. And obviously, as we push and probe, it's going to become quite vicious. Now, what I have noticed from setting up this scenario, which is basically just to put out all the units and make sure I've sticky labelled everything up nicely, is that ranged combat is really restricted by line of sight, and a crowded battlefield like this with wall-to-wall troops, pretty much the only people who can shoot are the people in the front line, which historically would be correct, because you try shooting over people, it could be problems. Now, with the artillery being on the hill, I would imagine they should be able to shoot over the heads of the units in front of them, so going to need to check on the rules for that. But so far, I've been pretty impressed with this. This only arrived this morning. I unboxed it, quickly skimmed the rules, and I do mean quickly skimmed the rules, and sticky labelled it all up, and filmed what I was doing as I was going, just to enjoy the experience. And the quality of the product is really, really good. Well, in conclusion then, I'm pretty happy with the product. It's taken a while to get the sticky labels applied. That is one of the downsides to blocks, but it looks great on the table. It's easy to move around. And if GMT are kind of a 9.8 out of 10, then these guys 9.6, probably 9.7. They're really, really good product here. My only slight concern is how much game is there in this time period, because we've got, 10, 12 scenarios, something like that. Are there many other battles in the American War of Independence? I suppose if you scale it down and say each block's like 4 men, maybe you can model some of the skirmish battles, but the actual mass battles, I don't recall there being a huge amount of battles in this time period. Now, it's possible you can slightly look outside of the base of American War of Independence and look at things like 7 Years' War and stuff like that, and kind of, your lace and musket type era. You don't want to venture too far towards the Napoleonic, because obviously that is the GMT variant of the game engine. So it's going to be interesting to see what Compass actually do to build on this, or is this just going to be a one and done box set? I like the combat cards and command cards. That's a sort of an idea that he's been playing with for a while. I remember it from Samurai battles. The dice, really nice, very similar to your standard stuff. The various units, there's enough there to have various tactics required, but not so many that you're going to be totally snowed under with myriads of options. Obviously, this particular setup I've done would be no good, I think, because line of sight is a major issue, and most of the units can't shoot because they've got people in the way, and that makes sense. Muskets were very short range and filled the air with smoke, and if you were shooting through friendly units, you would probably be doing them serious damage and they wouldn't be very pleased. I am going to have to read up on the hills and see whether or not that allows you to shoot over your friendly units. But I do quite like the basic idea I've come up here with my kind of do-it-yourself scenario, and I can see that if the base game doesn't get expanded, there's going to be a lot of room for just, make it up type battles, which I've done a lot with Command and Colours in other game systems. Anyway, there you go. That is a quick look at a game that arrived this morning. I unboxed it. I sticky labelled it. I've had a quick skim of the rules. It looks dangerously close to other Command and Colour games, which is always a risky thing to assume, because he is very clever, Mr Borg, at doing subtle little tweaks to the game engine that totally change the way it plays. So I'm looking forward to getting this to the table. Now, of course, I've got to put it all away again, but 2 thumbs up. Another excellent game. And, with Ancients and this, I'm pretty much set. I'm tempted by Battlecry, but its use of figures puts me off. Battle Lore, I preferred the first edition. Wasn't so keen on Ballad of Westeros. Not particularly interested in the range combat, so Memoir 44 and the sci-fi game whose name escapes me doesn't really work. The Great War is definitely worth a look, particularly with it being, the 100th anniversary of World War One. Anyway, this is another great addition to the family, and I hope it does very well for Compass and Mr Borg. Anyway, till the next video, take care.